It's April 16th, Sunday, and Poquito is ready to show you around the garden. This is just some native growth right here. It's really neat the way in the spring, I mean, these are just some ordinary weeds. It's nothing around here. Climbing up on the fence. This is all annual growth that'll be gone in a couple of months. But it's like, that's the bad knee. Bad cinematography due to bad knee. Nature puts this up every year, these weeds which the city would make me cut down if you could see them. Hopefully nobody can see them. And this was like all in the summer. I think there's one of the garden walks in the summer, and you saw all this here as just like almost bare ground. But then it comes back in the spring, and then all this stuff will die down, and you'll find out there's a bunch of brush over there that's going to get cut up for firewood. Over here are the native larkspurs. These require a tremendous amount of care. They won't really get big like this unless they get watered like at least once. But they will, sometimes they'll get this big anyway, depends if it rains enough. And they're going to bloom out, and then I'll have seeds. And I do give those seeds away, or I could sell them or whatever. I could put them on eBay if people wanted that. I don't like putting stuff on eBay and then nobody wants it, and I'd waste my time looking to see if anybody bought it. If I'm putting these in seeds in packs and sending them off to people that want to grow them, that's different. There's the flower there, pretty decent view of it. I'm getting a reflection, so I can't be sure I'm getting the right thing in the zoom, but come in on it. There's the flowers. And you can see there's going to be a whole lot more of them, all these things budding out. They go to the ground and they start to grow in the fall, so I seed them like in September if I'm saving seeds. We just scatter on the surface of the ground, or if I had my druthers, I'd get in with a tandem disc and just demolish all the weeds, and then scatter the seeds after the weeds were all dead. This patch right here is coming up in lamb's quarters, and you can see a few over here. Those are radishes, the wider leaves, and then you can see, we'll go on up that way if I guess P is over looking at something else. We'll go over and get a close look at some radishes that are seeding out over here. Crimson Giant are good because they get bigger. This area was just disked, and like I think in September, and then sown to radishes, and I've eaten a couple pounds out of here. They didn't do real well over winter, but the turnips did. Radishes, I have a hard time with it. They want to bolt to seed, and here's one doing it right next to the tin. And you can see the nice little white flowers, and then here's one that has some purple flowers. So like one radish thing you can do is start a patch of them and then pick the radishes out and like mark your absolute nicest ones. And don't take those, keep them for seed, the ones that did the best in your environment. And then you'll have like a little patch of those flowers. Here's a spot where some of that tin was laying. This is a daffodil. You can see the tin was laying on this and then was taken off before it was time for the daffodil to be due to sprout. But that choked a bunch of the weeds that emerged earlier than the daffodil and left this space. I didn't do any weeding to make this space around this daffodil. It would otherwise have been like this, which I think is kind of pretty, but certainly a little tough for a daffodil to grow up in. And the grape hyacinths, they've done their thing. And this is some of that, the Queen Anne's lace. I think that's Queen Anne's lace. Wild ancestor to the carrot. Oh, there's the hyacinths. That's what I was looking for. You can see one in the lower right here. And they're all kind of sort of orangey yellow of the dead foliage. That bunch there has done their thing for this year. But I should dig them up, and I have put some hyacinth bulbs on eBay. I just take a handful of them and say, who will give even $5 for these? Here's the wheat. I'll just kind of pan that. I used to pan a lot smoother, but I don't want to carry the tripod out here just because I'm standing on these not that reliable of feet. So that's the wheat, and then the background is the turnips. You probably already knew that. I'm not exactly sure what people want to see. I guess I got to read my comments, because like 150 people watched one of these, which is a lot for me. And so I know 1.5 million isn't a lot if you can scream about all the conspiracies that probably don't even exist and ignore the ones that everybody already knows do. We don't doubt who did in the Nord Stream pipeline, but Seymour Hersh tells you about that, and then somebody tries to make up this story about some guys in a sailing yacht. Back to the garden here. We're looking at the way back here, which is my sort of nature preserve. This is a mesquite tree doing what they do, which is they get old and then they start to flop over, and sometimes some branches will and some don't, and some stuff dies and some stuff stays alive, and they're pretty disorderly, but they have good firewood and it's good cooking wood, and they're pretty trees. They do have spines. Anybody tells you they don't have spines, they got spines that can put a flat on a truck tire. Yes, they have spines. If you want mesquites, I'm in climate zone 7B, but you can check your climate zone. I got some beans. I think I tried to sell them some on eBay. Nobody even wanted to pay like for the postage for the flat rate box. here's some mowed stuff here. Now that's all, according to this city code, that's how they would like everything to look. All just cut down like this. On the left, over here, where Poquito is, this is bad, bad, bad. Terrible. Needs to be cut down. We'll give you a ticket. If you don't do it yourself, we'll charge you hundreds of dollars. And we can fine you every day for having those weeds. But this over here is wonderful and beautiful. Okay. And you're smart. So Mr. P's inspecting these. We call these foxtails when I was a kid. I guess that's a standard common name for them. This is an obnoxious thing because it sticks in your clothing or your fur or whatever. Something that I've been thinking of lately, and I think I've sort of proved it out, is choking out with wheat. Now this is a winter wheat. It's like goes into the ground in September, and what I did was tandem disc at intervals until the weeds are all dead and dried up and completely killed and the ground is cleaned, and then throw wheat all over the place and water when it needed it in the fall, and then up comes the wheat. This is Mr. Wheat right here. I'm gonna eat this stuff. I'm gonna line a wheelbarrow with a sheet and then come out here and get off of my not very reliable feet and sit in a chair and cut this stuff and then beat it over the wheelbarrow. And I expect that one little session of sitting in one little spot, I'll get a cup or two of wheat berries, and they'll be like organic and fresh and wonderful, and the sort of stuff that people used to take for granted that you could eat. I've talked about this zucchini project here before. It's there's a landscape fabric under that, and under the landscape fabric is a soaker hose, and it's all waiting for the zucchinis. Last year I did it not quite as nice of a job as this. I'm thinking of making that into like a permanent bed. Mr. Rat bit the dust. Mr. P brought him out here. I don't know what he's going to do with it, but I'll throw it away if he doesn't do something. Usually, I think he buries them. Anyway, I try to encourage his anti-rat sentiments. Mr. Tractor here, that's a Ford 8N. An old soldier, about 1947. And he would like to see one of these great mechanics. I know one of them on eBay, but I think he's like in Pennsylvania and I'm in West Texas, so that's not very, he's not going to be coming here to work on my hydraulics for me. He's always doing these really cool projects where he gets like something that's completely trashed and is reworking it and all kind of fancy stuff. Some more native larkspur. And this is that little white flower, that sprawling thing. The white, it's a not very impressive wildflower. The foliage here, you're looking at some radishes, and then there's some Big bad Russian sunflowers. Doc, comrade. The big Russian flowers. Don't mess with them. They'll kick your ass. And Mr. P is making sure we're seeing all the right things here. These are they're not zucchinis this year actually, they're straight neck yellow squash. And they probably need to be fed a little more than I have been. I'm a really light applier of liquid fertilizer for my cell pack stuff, and probably don't use enough. And this is the native clay pile. There's a lot of good pots can be made out of this, and likely a lot of good pots will be, or at least some okay pots. Some wood being kept off the ground. There's some pretty good stuff in that pile if you're the kind of person that's used to use wood for everything. And there, of course, is an ancient wheelbarrow. Still works good though. It's got like a trailer tire on the front of it. The thing's it's not gonna go flat. This is Mr. Tandem Disc. I think he's been in a couple of videos. These discs, if you're like not used to farm implements, it's pulled along like this, and they go, anything from 1 to about 6 inches deep, depending on the hydraulic setting, and they slice up the ground. They don't just fight it, they cut it. And they cut off all the weeds and chop up all the dirt clods and all that. And then Mr. Digging Bar here, he's back here because these implements are, you've got to pry and bang and fight to get the things all lined up. Here's a kind of a good view of those radishes and stuff, which reminds me, it's going to show you the fava beans. No, they're not very. I guess I missed most of the flowering on this one. We had a couple of them here that made it through the 10-degree cold. This is one of them. And here's the other one. It's got the little white flower. And they're going to be like little beans. This is an over the winter thing, especially I'm in 7B, so if you're in a higher numbered climactic zone, and you can figure on this fall, you could, if you wanted to, plant some fava beans, which are not that interesting to eat, but they're okay, and they'll grow over the winter. Sometimes the winter crops are nice, like the turnips, because I don't have to weed. The nasty weeds come up in the summer and they're not there. This is my little group of stuff that gets in the sunny window here, and so that you can sort of have something that you can see when you just walk by the greenhouse. And I guess it's about time we can have the door open for the day. I'm going to close it again like a couple hours before sunset so it can get warm, because even in April we're still looking for these really warm nights. This is all the seedlings are in here, and the succulents, and most of them, wish they were in some desert. They are in a desert. But, quick run over these. You've probably seen them before, but here they go again. Some sedums. This is those Voodoos, I guess. And then some of the more branching type sedums. Those are all from seed. And then there's some sempervirens there. They were in 2-inch in the fall. So one year you can figure from a good 2-inch to a good 4-inch. And then these are succulents from cuttings. Some of the cutting type sedums. There's some of that voodoo. Sedum something or other, voodoo. Another little voodoo here. And some of the small branching ones. I'm not sure which that is. I don't have botanical names for some of this stuff because I just bought them off of eBay. So they don't know what they are. They just give you a pocket full of cuttings. It's a good thing to buy as a cutting, by the way, because a succulent dries before you plant it. So you can just take a cutting, wrap it up in paper, stick it in a package, and send it to somebody. And the cutting does not mind at all being dry for a week in the shade. It will just callus over, which makes it less likely to rot, and there you go. There's some Asclepias. And this right here is a hackberry. Sorry, Mr. Hackberry. It's a good tree, I guess. I've got seeds, by the way. They spread and stuff. You'd have to check your climate zone if you're not somewhere around 7B. It's a deciduous. This is them right out there. Those are all hackberries over there. There's a good dense privacy screening kind of grows with you don't have to care about it kind of stuff. There's some more Asclepias, which is also milkweed. There's different things that are called milkweed, but there's like a red and a white Asclepias, and there's some other colors too. Little sempervirens over here, and these are Sedum kamchatkum, like the Kamchatka Peninsula. That's the part of Russia that Sarah Palin can see. Right out her living room window. Russia's over there! Russia! Shasta daisies. Shasta daisies. These are perennial, white flower. Pretty tough. And hiding in there are the mysterious saguaros. If they come up, I probably will be selling them like as little pocket plants. But they'll be they'll probably be 2 years old by the time they're like as big as the last joint of your little finger. This is some gravel for. I like to put this on top when I pot up a succulent. A little layer of this gravel, like I did with these guys over here. So it gives that kind of nice desert look to it. Just kind of a cleaned up, I don't know, just, there's some of these pine trees that don't have it. See how they kind of look better. Those are in like a straight, rough compost. And the reason for that is it's very cheap and it's very light. And then when they make in 4-inch, I'll put them on eBay, and they'll be cheap to ship that way. And somebody can put them in their favorite kind of pot. Here's a little one of these little itty bitty jelly bean guys. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to propagate them. Yeah, every greenhouse you got to have some junk. The really cool design for a greenhouse would be like these telephone poles are good, and that those shelves I'm going to eventually bury in junk. There's your there's a detail for how you could do. You could probably do a better job than I did. And what I would do different. Put my door on the north side, and then build a tin shed for say 10 feet, and then build 10 feet of greenhouse on the north side. And if you get like these windows, or I mean windows, mirrors out of that was a shower door mirror. If you can get something like this for free, which I did, then you would put them in the north wall of the greenhouse, and then there'd be a pass-through door like right there, and then your potting shed and your pot storage and your place to hide out and sit and sort through pieces of gravel and stuff, and but all that activity would be back there in the shed. And we're going to hit this. It's going to take forever to upload. And everybody on the Linux group wanted to tell me how to use a video editor, but I can't. I tried like 4 of them, and I can't get any of them to work. And so I don't edit. I can't. I edited something once with a previous version of something, and I've used the editor that YouTube used to have. There's some pots out here. They're just out here to be seasoned, and that to me just means getting rid of that kind of raw white look and getting a little bit brownish and mottled. And so those ones in the black big saucer looking thing have been sitting where the dishwasher outputs, so they've been getting splatted with dirty water out of the dishwasher for like a month, and that makes sure that we get rid of any kind of soluble salts that the plants might not like, and start in on the getting a little color to them. Here's a recent accomplishment. If you don't set the bar too high, this was all like stuff with nails sticking out of it and everything. Now it's all neat and tidy and stacked up in rows, and the nails are all pulled out, and they're ready to be used for, well, I'm not sure what. I mean, I need a few of them for some of these sections of fence back here. Mr. not very valuable fiberglass handled hammer, which can stay out here because it's not afraid of being rained on. Riding mower, wouldn't it be nice to have one of these that ran? I've always wanted one that ran. I've had several, but I've never had one that ran. Well, this one runs, but it's very difficult to get it started, and then once you do it, runs good, but I can't do much as far as mowing with it. It's just, they did everything wrong, like they always do. There's my little pile of masonry junk. It's handy to have around, but you don't want as much as Syria and Iraq have got. And there's Mr. P is checking for anything that makes a sound back there. It's probably just Mr. Big Fat Bluebelly Lizard, who I really hope he never catches up with. I'd like to teach him that things with fur from cat size on